is doing this weird thing. Alright. Hey folks, my name is Jen, and I am back again today with another video. This one is about my most anticipated reads of 2022. So I'm going to go in like chronological order of when these books are coming out. So let's start off with January. The first couple of books that are on my list, I do have to say they will already have come out either by the time, a couple of them have already come out technically by the time I'm filming this, but by the time it goes up, yeah, they will have been out already. But you know what, I'm mentioning them anyway because I am still excited about them and I can't wait to check them out when I can get to the bookstore. And you should also check them out too if they sound appealing to you. So on January 1st, the first book I want to talk about is called Digging Up Love, and this is by Chandra Bloomberg. So, like I said, it came out on January 1st. It is a romance novel. So this is following Alicia, who is a baker who ends up making delectable, delicious desserts in her family's small town restaurant, but she does dream of opening her own cookie shop in the big city in Chicago. When a dinosaur bone kind of turns up all of a sudden in her grandparents' backyard, a paleontologist is called in. Enter Quentin, who is coming to take a look at the bones and also try to get over his broken heart. The two meet and sparks fly. So not only does this sound super cute, but it also has a diverse cast and involves dinosaurs and cake, so I'm pretty much sold on this. Next up on January 4th, The Maid by Nita Prose arrived. This book follows Molly Gray, who is a little bit different. She has trouble with social skills and has always had her grandmother to help her in figuring out how to deal with other people and making her way through the world. Her grandmother has set forth a bunch of rules for her to live by to help her decode the somewhat mystifying bits of society at times. Now that her grandmother has recently passed, Molly has been trying to figure out things on her own. She is damn good at her job, throwing her all into her job as a maid at the Regency Grand Hotel. But when she goes to clean the room of the extremely wealthy and infamous Charles Black and finds him dead, Molly's world is turned completely upside down. So this book is said to be a Clue-like locked room mystery, which, I mean, pretty much that's all you have to say to me to get me to be interested in this book, like comparing it to Clue and saying it's a locked room mystery. So I'm pretty excited about that. Also having a main character who sounds like they're possibly neurodivergent is also a plus, since I'm trying to expand my reading year. So that's also a plus. So I am very interested in this book and I can't wait to like try to find it when I'm able to go to the bookstore. Next up on January 6th, there comes In Defense of Witches, and this is a nonfiction book by Mona Chalot. Chalot? I think it's French. And I did not take French in high school, so I apologize if I mispronounce that. This book, it sounds like this is looking at the history of witches of the past, or women who were labeled thus due to their independent nature, choosing to be child-free, or just kind of being, you know, deigning to be an elderly woman in the past, basically. This addresses how these same independent-minded women of today are viewed and are still having issues in society at large. It sounds like it will be a fascinating read. I do admit though that I'm a little bit nervous about it because I have seen a couple reviews where people said that, you know, it's just incredibly dry. So yeah, I'm worried a little bit that it might end up being a bit drier, maybe boring, but overall people seem to be really into it, so I'm hoping that this will, you know, be a good read because it does sound fascinating. Then on January 11th, we get My Fine Fellow by Jenica Cohen. So in 1830s England, Helena Higgins and Penelope Pickering are culinarians. They have been studying their culinary skills at school, and they plan on creating delectable dishes for society's elite, basically. When they meet Elijah Little, who is a poor baker, he can't own a shop because he is Jewish, so he has taken to hawking his goods as like a street vendor. When the two girls meet him, they decide to transform Elijah from a poor street vendor into a major gentleman chef, and shenanigans ensue. I am particularly excited about this because this is a My Fair Lady retelling, and My Fair Lady is a musical that I particularly enjoy because, I mean, first of all, the music's pretty bangin'. Second of all, it has my love Audrey Hepburn in it, and she is wonderful. So that aspect of it is also really exciting. I've also read the original play. My Fair Lady was a musical version based off of the George Bernard Shaw play Pygmalion, which again is based off of the, I think it's a Greek myth, Pygmalion, where a man, an artist, falls in love with his creation. The play is hilarious and really good. So I would recommend like reading that. I'd recommend watching My Fair Lady. But yeah, this is a retelling of that. I'm extremely excited about it. It also has a diverse cast and it involves food, so yeah, I can't wait until this comes out. Lastly, in January on the 25th, we get Something Fabulous by Alexis Hall. So this involves, again, some romantic shenanigans, I guess. Valentine Layton, I believe he's a duke, I think. His father has always wanted him to propose to young Miss Arabella Tarleton. So Valentine does indeed propose to her, but Arabella does not want a marriage of convenience. She wants romance and supreme love, so she ends up fleeing in the night from him because she deems a marriage to him to be particularly intolerable. Now Valentine is off on a chase to find Arabella and convince her that he is not an asshole, and he's off on this chase with Arabella's twin brother Bonaventure. But on the journey, Valentine finds himself questioning everything he thought he knew about himself, how love works, and about which of the twins that he should be pursuing. So this sounds super fun and cute. It is a Regency era novel, and there's LGBT reps, so I'm very much on board with this. Okay, moving on into February. On the 1st, we have The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. This book is following Nan O'Day, who is a fictionalized version of Archibald Christie's actual mistress, who I think's name was also Nan or Nancy, something like that. I don't remember. Basically, Nan has plotted for years to get with Archie and destroy Agatha Christie's marriage. So the question is, why did she do this? And why did Agatha Christie disappear for 11 days? So This one, I'm a little bit nervous about it, even though it sounds like super fascinating and everything. I have read another novel. I just read it last year. The Mystery of Mrs. Christie by Marie Benedict. That was a take on trying to explain what happened to Agatha Christie for those 11 days that she did indeed go missing in the 1920s, and trying to explain why that might have happened, what was involved in everything. And it was an interesting novel, but it definitely didn't make it onto my favorites of the year list. So I'm a little apprehensive about this, even though this is a different premise. This is by a different author. An entirely different take on those 11 days in which Agatha Christie went missing. But yeah, I'm still a little bit nervous. But it promises to be a story of revenge, which I'm very interested in how that would be working about. I'm pretty curious about it. And it's also interesting because it's from the point of view of Archie's mistress. So yeah, I think it will be interesting. On February 15th, then we get Bright Ruined Things by Samantha Coho. So this book is set in like the 1920s, I believe, and it follows May, who lives on the charity of the wealthy Prosper family who control the magic and the spirits of the island where they all reside. When the spirits start mysteriously dying during the annual first night celebration, May must work together with her friends to unravel the secrets of the island, bringing forth as well truths about her own past. So this is another retelling. This is actually a retelling of The Tempest by William Shakespeare. The Tempest was definitely one of my favorite Shakespeare play that we covered in school, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really interested to see how this retelling is going to work, and it sounds like a fascinating take on it. It's set in the 1920s, which is also interesting as well. There seems to be like a resurgence of 20s style novels recently, and I like it. Alright, then we get into March. On March 1st, we have a new release from V.E. Schwab. This is called Gallant. Gallant features Olivia Pryor, who attends the prestigious Maryland School for Girls. All she knows of her past is what is contained within her mother's journal, which apparently gets a little weird towards the end. But when she receives a letter requesting that she return home to Gallant, she goes. It turns out that no one there was actually expecting her, but she decides to stay despite the fact that her cousin's like super hostile towards her, and she also keeps seeing like creepy ghost shit in the hallways. But one day, Olivia finds another version of Gallant beyond a ruined wall. A darker Gallant that seems to hold the secrets to her past and the history of her family. And the question is, has she finally found a place where she can belong? And what does she belong to? Which version of Gallant will she belong to? This sounds creepy and kind of unsettling and almost seems to have like a gothic feel to it. So I'm definitely intrigued. I've also heard that this is compared to being a little bit like Secret Garden. Interesting. I've also seen it compared to Crimson Peak, which is on my list to watch, but I haven't watched it yet, and I've heard other people say that it sounds like comparing it to Stardust, which Stardust is one of those random things where I didn't really like the book, which was sad, but I love the movie, so I don't know. I'm definitely intrigued. Plus it's V.E. Schwab, so I mean. Then on March 15th, We get The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This is a mystery novel, and it sounds like it's set between two different time periods, perhaps, or at least the beginning of it is set during a different time period. It starts in 1977 at Clear Lake, Oregon. An entire town is shook by the Lady Killer murders, which feature two men randomly murdered with the same gun, and leaving like strange notes left behind. There is the perfect suspect in a very eccentric young woman who was seen near the scene of the crime, but she was acquitted. Flash forward to Oregon in 2017. We meet Shay, who by day has a boring normal job and by night is a true crime fanatic. She runs a website called The Book of Cold Cases. And so she's very fascinated in true crime in general. One day she ends up running into the woman who was acquitted of the crime several decades before, and ends up interviewing her. But in the course of the interview and getting to know Beth, there does seem to be underlying secrets and a creepiness as she gets to know the area and this like creepy ass mansion that the originally accused woman Beth lives in. So this sounds, again, it sounds like it has like a little bit of a gothic feel to it in a sense with the old mansion and stuff like that, but it also has to do with like true crime, and I have mentioned before how much I loved I Hope You're Listening, which involves like a true crime podcast, and I think I've also talked in here a few times before about how into true crime I am. I have read a couple of books involving it, but mostly I listen to like a ton of podcasts. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by this, and I can't wait to check it out when it comes out. Next up, in April, on the 5th of April, Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega comes out. So this features this magical town of Ravenskill, and apparently in this town, witchlings, or I guess baby witches, I suppose, participate every year in the Black Moon ceremony, which helps place them into the covens that they will join to come into their own powers and eventually become like official witches. The main character is a 12-year-old named Seven Salazar, and she can't wait to be placed in basically the most powerful coven with like her best friends, but on the night of the ceremony, Seven is not placed in any covens. She ends up being what is known as a spare. Spare covens have a lot fewer witches and basically are like the pariahs of the town. They are really looked down upon. Then when Seven and a couple of the other witchlings in her coven attempt to form their own circle and do like a spell that will bind them as sisters together, it does not work, which means they will never be able to do powerful magic ever. The only way to possibly save them from this fate of never being able to actually do powerful magic is to undertake an impossible task. If they successfully complete this, they will be able to officially form their own circle and be able to become fully fledged witches like they dream. The only problem is the last time anyone attempted this, they were all turned into toads for like ever. This sounds so cute. It is a middle grade magic novel, which I've really been on a kick with those lately. Like I said, it sounds super cute. I'm very interested in how the magic seems to work in this world, and it's got like, you know, magic school type setting thing too. I'm very interested in this, and it sounds like it's going to be super cute. I can't wait. Then we move into the books that are coming out in May. So on May 3rd, there are actually 2 books coming out that I'm super excited for. One being The Ghosts of Rose Hill, and this is by R.M. Romero. So this is following Ilana Lopez, who is a biracial Jewish girl. She has been sent to stay with her aunt in Prague, and there she finds herself torn between her ultimate dream of becoming a successful violinist and the expectations her immigrant parents have for her to pursue a career that's like a lot more stable. While visiting her aunt, she discovers a forgotten Jewish cemetery nearby and meets the ghost of a boy named Benjamin who died 100 years ago. As she gets to know Benjamin and tries to fix up his gravesite, he teaches her more about the enchanted side of Prague. Meanwhile, there is a mysterious man named Rudolf Wasserman who has no shadow and has become super interested in Ilana and her music. But there is a lot more to Wasserman and the deal he wants to make with her to help her achieve her dreams. So let's tick some boxes off here for this book, shall we? There's magic. There's a girl trying to figure out if she should pursue her dreams or not. There's ghosts and possibly a ghost romance. We're somewhere in Europe. So there we go. That's 4 boxes ticked right off there. This sounds like it's going to be super cool. A little afraid that there's going to be some tears involved, but I think that this will be a really good read. It sounds very cool and sweet. The other book that is coming out on May 3rd is Bravely by Maggie Stiefvater. Bravely is a sequel to Brave, i.e., like Merida, Scotland. Do you remember the Disney Pixar movie? So this is the sequel that I don't know if anyone really asked for or wanted, but we're getting it, and I'm kind of excited. Honestly, I'm also coming into this a little trepidation, just because sometimes when something seems like it's a standalone and then a sequel gets made, the sequels don't always turn out that great. But, I mean, Disney gave permission. It's Maggie Stiefvater. Her books are pretty beloved as far as I know. I've only read one of her books, and it was The Scorpio Races, and I didn't like it. So that's another part of my nervousness. However, it's a sequel to Brave. So this follows Merida. It's about 5 years after the events of Brave. Merida really loves her family and her peaceful kingdom, but she is really bored. She longs for adventure and challenge, and maybe somewhat day she'll also find love, perhaps. But she should be careful what she wishes for, because adventure comes in the form of Faradoc. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, I apologize. It is a supernatural being that is supposed to root out rotten stagnation. He appears in Dunbrook with the intent of demolishing the entire realm and everyone within it. But when another entity, the entity of creation, Gallant, intervenes, this gives Merida the chance to convince her family to change, and not be stagnant basically within the year, or there's, shit's gonna hit the fan. So Merida has to go off on adventures and journey to kingdoms near and far to try to inspire some kind of revolution and change within her family. So the tagline is 4 seasons to save Dunbrook or see it destroyed forever. Interested. Definitely interested. I really, enjoyed brave. Like I said, a little nervous about this sequel that just kind of came out of nowhere. However, I mean, it does sound interesting. I like that they're pulling in, I'm guessing this is lore. I don't know a ton about Scottish lore if it doesn't involve, like, you know, the stone circles or the Loch Ness Monster. I don't really know a lot more about their, like, other lore, so I'm not sure if Faradoc and Calic are actual things. I feel like I've heard Calic before somewhere, or maybe it's just something named after it, so I'm gonna have to look more into that. But it does sound super interesting, and it does sound like maybe there's some Scottish lore mixed in here. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm extremely hopeful this is going to be awesome. Then on May 17th, we get the Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. So this also seems to be kind of inspired by stories. It says the Stardust Thief is inspired by the stories of 1001 Nights, so that's pretty cool. This book follows Luli al-Nazari, who is the Midnight Merchant. She's a criminal who hunts and sells illegal magic with the help of her djinn bodyguard. She ends up one day saving the life of a prince and ends up drawing the attention of the prince's extremely powerful father, the Sultan, who blackmails her into finding an ancient lamp that can try to revive their land, but unfortunately in doing so it will sacrifice all of the djinn. Luli ends up journeying with the Sultan's oldest son to try to find this lamp, while she is also aided by her bodyguard, and there's a lot of shit that they must overcome to try to find this item. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of action and potential sacrifice. There's a lot of secrets going on. So I have not read all of the 1001 Nights stories. I think I've read about 3 of them. So I'm very interested in hearing this, where this is like inspired by and has like that kind of world us existing in. Also really interested to know what's going on with like the bodyguard and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it'll be like a love triangle or not. I don't know. I'm very intrigued anyway. Very, very interested. Then we move into the summer months. So on June 7th, The Woman in the Library comes out. This is by Solari Gentill. And it's set at the Boston Public Library, which is interesting. I've never been there, but, you know, I live near-ish to Boston, so the interesting. Reading room of the Boston Public Library has its quiet shattered when a woman screams. Security guards immediately come in to find what happened and what the threat is, essentially. While they are waiting for things to go back to normal and get like the all clear, 4 strangers who ended up sitting down at the same table end up passing time in conversation and getting to know each other. And it says that each of them have their own reason for being there, and it just so happens that one of the people sitting at the table is a murderer. So that description was enough, first of all, for me to, be intrigued and put it on my list, and also get excited enough about the prospect of this book coming out that I put it on this list. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I'm definitely very much intrigued. On June 12th, we get How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. So this is technically a horror novel, but from what it says in the very small description about this book, it says it's a hilarious and terrifying new novel. So I do like when horror movies have a level of humor involved in them, and I'm interested. There's not really that much that is known about it, other than it just says it's a take on the haunted house and a hilarious and terrifying new novel that explores the way your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else. I mean, I'm definitely interested in it. The house is creepy. Is it the house? Is it the past? Is it the family that resides there? Not sure, but again, humor and horror melded together. I'm interested. I'm definitely gonna check that out. Then there are 2 books coming out on June 14th that I'm kind of excited about. One of these is Valiant Ladies by Melissa Gray. So Valiant Ladies is actually a historical fiction novel. It is following 2 young women. I apologize. I have taken Spanish, but I'm probably going to butcher this. Eustaquia Kiki de Sonsa and Ana Lezama de Urinsa. I'm sorry. So it features these 2 young ladies who are your typical proper young 17th century ladies. During the day, at least. At nighttime, they change into men's clothes and venture out into the streets of Potosi, which is in Peru, and they pass their time by fighting, gambling, and falling desperately in love with one another, it says. It sounds like there's an adventure involved, and it's also, like, apparently based on real people, like real actual Latinx teenagers who were known as the Valiant Ladies of Potosi. Never heard of this before, ever. Very interested in checking out, like, this part of history, and also really interested in reading this story. It sounds like it's gonna be pretty awesome. Also, on June 14th, Breaking Time by Sasha Alsberg is going to come out. So this follows perhaps star-crossed lovers. This kind of sounds like that might be the case in here. A young woman named Clara accidentally almost hits this random mysterious Scotsman who appears in front of her car. Then she finds out that this mysterious Scotsman, Callum, has stepped out of another time. He's actually from, I think, the 15 or 1600s. And in the course of meeting this man, Clara finds out that she is the last pillar of time, which is apparently an anchor point in the timeline of the world. And Callum is the man who is supposed to protect her at all costs. Sounds like there's like a dark force that is hunting people like her, and there's like some magic and an evil goddess perhaps, and time travel and stuff like that. So while this sounds super interesting, and I definitely do want to check it out, I am also a little bit nervous at the same time about this book because I have read one of Sasha Alsberg's other books and didn't really like it, so I'm a little bit on the fence about it. But that was sci-fi, and I'm really picky about sci-fi. This is historical fiction. I tend to enjoy historical fiction a lot more, and there's also like time travel, which is a trope I love. It's set in Scotland, which that's really cool, and so I don't know. I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm also willing enough to give it a chance, especially since it sounds like she's done like a lot of research and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm nervous, but I'm still kind of hopeful because it does sound really interesting. So then on July 5th, the second volume of Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith comes out. I showed it off in my book haul, but I have volume 1. Lore Olympus is a modernish retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. This is just an absolutely beautiful webcomic. I have been reading it for a while now on Webtoons. It's also extremely popular. Have technically probably read like way far ahead of where volume 1 and volume 2 are in the storyline, but I really, like I said, I love this webcomic. I love Rachel Smith's work, so I really want to support her, and I also really want to just own hard copies of it because it'd be way easier on my poor eyes to reread via a book rather than scrolling through like a computer screen all of the time. So yeah, I have volume 1. I do want to like reread that at some point, but I might wait until volume 2 comes out in July so I can just do like a reread of like both of those in actual physical form. Then on July 21st, out comes Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which sounds like it's going to be part of a series, and this is by Juno Dawson. So this book features a group that has been established by Queen Elizabeth I as a covert government department. However, it appears that one of the oracles of the agency has foreseen that there is going to be a genocide of all witches. Basically, the ways to tackle this prophecy and how to fight against it or not ends up threatening to tear apart a group of lifelong friends. Literally, this is me paraphrasing what is on here. There's really not that much description on here, barely a paragraph, but I mean, witches, secret government organization, prophecies, it's in England. Like, again, ticking off boxes here for me. I'm very interested. Then, on July 26th, we have another book that I'm excited about, but also a little nervous about at the same time. And that is Accomplished, a Georgie Darcy novel by Amanda Quain. So, this is basically a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but from the point of view of Georgiana Darcy, who is Darcy's younger kid sister. So there was an incident the previous year between Georgiana and Wickham, who, if you know Pride and Prejudice, Wickham, shithead, we don't like him, okay. You know, Georgiana should have been expelled apparently after this incident, but wasn't. But she basically has the scorn of the entire school, as well as the disappointment of her older brother, Fitz. So that's Fitzwilliam Darcy, haha. It's her junior year at Pemberley Academy, and she wants to prove to everyone that she is more than an embarrassment. She wants to be more perfect like her older brother. So she has a list of things that she has to do, rebuilding her reputation, trying to avoid Wickham, and trying to distract her older brother from watching her like a hawk by trying to get him to fall in love with his classmate, Lizzie Bennet, who really doesn't like him. I'm very excited about this. I'm excited that it's like a modern take on it. I'm excited that this is like a different point of view from Georgiana, especially since like we don't really get to see a lot of her in Pride and Prejudice. We don't get to see a lot of her in the retellings I've read so far of Pride and Prejudice, but then therein also lies my nervousness about this book at the same time, because while it does sound super interesting, I have read a couple of other Pride and Prejudice retellings, about 2 or 3 at this point, and was actually fairly disappointed in all of them. So I'm a little nervous about how this is going to turn out too. But I'm hoping that maybe because it's like a little bit different and there's like it's not from Lizzie or Darcy's point of view this time, that maybe that will help it along I don't know. It does sound interesting though, so. Okay, then we're getting into a couple of books that I'm like beyond excited for. Like screaming might have been involved at one point when I found out that these were coming out. So moving right along into August, on the 4th, there is going to be a new book out by Jean Menzies and Katie Ponder, and that is Egyptian Myths. So a couple of years ago, Jean Menzies, she's on BookTube as well, she came out with a book featuring Greek myths and the gods and goddesses and monsters of myths and legends. I bought it, I read it, it's super great. I think that it's technically being marketed towards a younger set, like children and stuff like that, but honestly, if you're an adult who's just interested in myths too, you'll get enjoyment out of it as well. The artwork is absolutely stunning, the information is so well done, the interpretation of the myths is also just something I really enjoyed, and there's also a lot of information comparing different things to today's world, where we get certain names from, we take them from these myths and whatnot. It's simply interesting, and I also really liked learning a little bit more about Greek society through that book as well. So this time she is doing the same thing, but with Egyptian myths. So we're learning about the gods, the goddesses, the pharaohs. I did go through a small Egyptian phase when I was a kid, because I got super into the Egypt game, and then I watched The Mummy, so like, yeah, I had a period of time where I was like all about Egyptian myths and archaeology and stuff like that, but I haven't really thought about that in a long time, and I also don't really know that much, honestly. I don't think I know as much as I thought I did as a kid. So I'm super interested in checking this book out, and I just want to see more gorgeous artwork. I'm very excited about that as well. Then on August 9th, we've got 2 books coming out, one of which I'm freaking out for. It is Empty Smiles. This is book 4, and I believe also the final book in the Small Spaces Quartet by Catherine Arden. Can't really say anything about this book other than it involves, like, it's the 4th and final book, but it involves like 4 friends, and it's set in Vermont, and there's like, it's following the seasons. Small Spaces is in the fall, Dead Voices is in the winter, and Dark Waters is in the spring. So Empty Smiles is set in the summer. It's following the 4 months, I believe, after the events of Dark Waters. Shit is hitting the fan. Like I said, it involves some kids who are friends and this creepy ass entity who they've gone up against a couple of times, and this one appears to involve clowns, which, I mean, Catherine Arden, thank you so much for reminding me of the irrational things that I've always been afraid of and just bringing them into book form. Thank you. But also on August 9th, we get The Monsters We Defy, and this book is by Leslie Penelope. This is another book that sounds like it's a mystery, but also like a fantasy, possibly. It is taking place in the 1920s again. It says it is in the summer of 1925, and it takes place in Washington, D.C. DC, jeez. There is a malevolent entity who is preying upon the black residents of the area, and the main character, Clara Johnson, is determined to figure out what is going on and try to fix it. She is a medium and has decided that she is going to investigate this matter, but she is given an impossible task which involves stealing an ancient ring from a wealthy family. This sounds like there's like a heist involved, there's ghosts involved, it's set in the 20s, it has a diverse cast. I'm very interested in this book and I cannot wait to check it out. And lastly, the last book that I am super duper excited for. It comes out in October, on October 13th to be exact. We get Silverborn, The Mystery of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is book 4 in the Nevermore series. I can't talk that much about it because it is book 4 in a series, but basically the series is following Morrigan Crow. She was always known as like a cursed or unlucky child when she was growing up, and her family was not really that excited about the fact that she was fated to be killed or to die, basically. In swoops a mysterious man who saves her right before she is supposed to be slayed and takes her to Nevermore, his world, and where he tries to help her go through trials to enter this like supreme magical organization. This is book 4. It appears, there's not really that much information here, but it appears that we might be learning more about Morrigan's past in this one. And it was just hinted at a little bit in book 3. I'm super duper excited to figure out what is going on and learn more about her struggles with like this school and the society that she's in, and I'm extremely excited about this, and there isn't really much of a cover yet. I can't wait to see what this one's going to look like, because they always give little hints to what is going to happen in the book itself, but it doesn't really make sense until after you've read it most of the time. But I'm very excited about this, and I can't wait. So that is it, folks. That is all of the books that I am excitedly anticipating in 2022. Let me know if you guys are also excited about this, or if there are any other books that you're excited about. Or things that you could recommend to me that are going to be coming out. Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!